So let's take a look at the agenda for this webinar. So starting off with, we're going to have a fixed asset overview, the fixed asset setup at a glance, and looking at the fixed asset life cycle. Okay, first of all, what is a fixed asset? Most of you, of course, working in the accounting function will be very much aware of what a fixed asset is, or those in day-to-day life or businesses will be very much aware that a fixed asset is a long-term tangible piece of property that a company owns and or leases, and of which will be used in the production of its income, but is not expected to be consumed or converted into cash any sooner than at least 1 year's time. So, for example, a fixed asset can be a property, plant, equipment, and that is, for example, a car, office equipment, machinery, etc. In terms of fixed assets and the importance within the company, of course, they are a very important part of the company right after the people. So what happens with your fixed asset over time? Well, of course, depreciation. So this is the decline in value of an asset due to its use and allocation of the cost of tangible assets to periods in which the assets are used. So that is, at the end of its useful life, it is either fully depreciated or sold. Okay, this is just an overview of some of the enhancements that fixed assets will provide you in SAP Business One 9.1. So you've got integrated comprehensive fixed asset solutions for end-to-end process, ability to handle different accounting areas, flexible depreciation calculation defined to meet local requirements and international accounting standards, authorization concept, new fixed assets master data structure, and just to mention that the fixed assets master data structure in SAP Business One version 9 and 9.1 is very similar to your item master data. So it won't look unsimilar in terms of there's just additional tabs, obviously primarily the fixed assets tab, and of course the depreciation area. What are the benefits to the fixed assets? Well, enhanced capabilities in fixed asset management, allows customers specific enhancements, meets cross-localization accounting standards, and leverages existing Business One processes such as procurement process. So let's take a look at actually what's involved in setting up a fixed asset. Well, there are certain steps involved, and obviously primarily the first thing, of course, is to activate the fixed asset function. This is done actually through your company details option, which is in administration system initialization, and it's simply a tick box option to activate the fixed assets. And within that, of course, there's an option then to specify whether the depreciation is run monthly or on daily basis. So that would be for the overall company. Moving on, then you have the document numbering, because fixed assets also has its own set of documents such as capitalization, revaluation, transfers, depreciation, and retirement. And these all fall into their own document numbering series, so it allows you to track those separately within the company. Then we have account determination, whereby you can set up multiple sets of accounts. So fixed assets will have its own account determination for each type of fixed asset, whatever way you want to group those. Later, of course, they will be associated with the primary accounts under the asset classes. Then we're moving on, we have the depreciation types. So this is, we determine here how depreciation is actually calculated. So within depreciation types you have different parameter values such as acquisition methods, block salvage, value calculation methods. So there's various things there that can be set on the depreciation types. Then we have the depreciation areas. Again, this allows you to define multiple depreciation areas for your required reporting. Just to note, only the main area is considered when posting the journal entry to the system. And the main area, again, is a tick box that's defined on the depreciation screen during setup. The asset class, what does the asset class do? It brings the depreciation type and the account determination together, which of course will later be assigned to the fixed asset master data. And the last step prior to actually defining your fixed asset master data is attribute groups, or as you would know perhaps on your BP master or item master, properties. So again, these are just properties that you can define for your fixed asset master data. And finally, of course, entering or importing the fixed asset master data. As confirmed, this is very similar to your item master in structure, with addition, of course, of the fixed asset master data screen and with the depreciation area. So it looks very similar to the item master. So these fixed assets can be entered either manually or imported directly into the system from Excel. And of course, a template can be provided to make that transition easier. So let's just review that and take a look at what we've said there so far in terms of, one, initializing the fixed asset module, and then the setting up of the fixed assets. So this is your main menu screen in SAP Business One 9.1. So if we go into administration, system initialization, and then into company details, and on the basic initialization tab, you will see down here we have a tick box for enable fixed assets. And we've calculated depreciation by month. This is what we set in this database. Just to mention, of course, you can see there that once it's been ticked, it cannot be unticked. Do bear in mind, if it does get ticked by mistake, it's not going to cause any structural damage to your database because the GL determination is separate, everything is separate within the new fixed asset functionality. In previous versions, up to version 9, yes, it could have caused harm by enabling the add-on, as it would have added on specific UDFs to the system, whereas now it's part of the core product, so the fields are already within SAP. So unless you're using the function, it doesn't matter that it actually has been enabled, but this is where it is enabled. Okay. And then moving on from there, let's go into Setup, Financials, and you will see that once the option for fixed assets is enabled, there will be a new fixed assets option here under the Setup menu and within Financials. And in there you can see, as we've mentioned on the Setup at a Glance slide, you can see we have account determination, we have depreciation types, depreciation areas, asset classes, attribute groups. Okay. And in addition to that, if we go into the financial, you now have a new menu option here called Fixed Assets. And in here we have the Asset Master data. So just to bring up one of the assets there, you can see there that in fact, looking at the screen, it is very similar to your item master. Okay, in terms of the structure of the screen. But in addition, of course, we have the Fixed Assets tab, where that also farms out to the overview of the fixed asset, the values, depreciation, cost accounting, and the attributes that we mentioned, which of course is similar to your properties. Okay, so that's just the setup of the system at a glance. And the other option, just to mention it there, of course, in system initialization is your document numbering. So if we scroll down, you can see there, in addition, then we have document numbering for the various transaction types: capitalization, capitalization credit memo, manual depreciation, revaluation, transfer, and retirement. Okay, just moving back there to our next step, let's take a look at the fixed asset lifecycle. So what happens basically when you define a fixed asset within your system? So looking at this here, we have, just as an example, we have definition for a fixed asset master data for a truck. And we have the item type is fixed assets with a useful life of 3 years. So in this example, we have a new truck that we've purchased at the beginning of the fiscal year. We've specified its useful life, that is the period of which an asset is expected to be usable. It doesn't mean that it's non-existent after the 3 years, but this is the life that we expect to be able to use it within the company. So useful life of 3 years. So the first thing we do is we define the asset master. We specify the useful life of 3 years. And then in order to actually activate the fixed asset, we have to enter an AP invoice, a purchase invoice. And this in turn creates a capitalization document. And what the capitalization document then does, it records the acquisition and production costs for that fixed asset. Okay, so in this example, we'll record a purchase invoice with a cost of 6,000 and a value date of the 1st of January. The value date, of course, the value date on the invoice will then come across as the capitalization date for that fixed asset. So just to show you the 2 steps in question, so let's just go back to our sample data. So if we look in financials and go to fixed assets and go to asset master data. So this is where we've defined our truck as a fixed asset, and we have also under the fixed assets giving it a useful life of 3 years. Okay, so just going back one step, so in order to create our capitalization document, we've gone into AP invoice and created basically a purchase invoice for the truck at a value of 6,000. And you can see here what I mean by value date. So the value date, the posting date I've put in for the 1st of the 1st, 2015. So now when we look at the asset master data screen, you will see down here we have a capitalization date now of the 1st of the 1st, 2015. The acquisition and production costs has now increased to 6,000. Okay, and if we just look at the values as they stand, so the acquisition value now is 6,000. And moving on from that then, so what will happen then after that? So we've recorded our asset, we've recorded the value, the acquisition of that asset and the capitalization. So we have our value of 6,000. So we have said from the beginning that the useful life of this item is going to be over 3 years. So of course your next step, just to remind you on our life cycle, is the depreciation run itself. So what's the expected depreciation run? So these can be done, of course, automatically or manually, where you depreciate the planned, the planned depreciations, which is generally 2,000 a year. So that, for example, by the end of year 1, our net book value, okay, which is effectively the original cost, the original capitalization or production costs of 6,000 less any depreciation that has occurred during the year. So we would expect then, of course, after year 1 to see a net book value of 4,000. So just to bring you back and to look at the depreciation screen, so you can see there the planned depreciation for period 1, which is year 1, is 2,000, and for period 2 is 2,000, and for period 3 is 2,000. So as you run your depreciations, of course, it's going to change the net book value going forward. Okay, so just to go back to the next point, so we have adjustments. So, again, you've got your fixed asset, you've activated it using the purchase document for the capitalization of the asset. So then you're running your depreciations, and if for any reason there are any particular adjustments or anything to be done throughout the year, there are additional transactions that can occur, which is your transfer, revaluation, appreciation, and of course there is a memo as well, a capitalization credit memo as well. So we've reached the end of life. So we've reached the useful life of the asset in question. So what is the next step? Of course, retirement. So the retirement is done through an AR invoice, activated through an AR invoice, and the AR invoice then subsequently records a retirement document, at which point, of course, the retirement value will be equal to 0. So it's reached its end of life. So just to mention that at this point, once the item has been retired, all transactions are registered to the fixed asset subledger and can be found in various reporting areas as part of the standard general ledger system for SAP Business One. So just to show you that in the demo system again, if we go back to our financials, go to fixed assets and go into fixed asset reports, there are various reporting options available to you as well. Okay, so just to review what we've done so far. So if we go back to the beginning, we've looked at the fixed asset overview, so your fixed asset description. We've looked at the enhancements and benefits of using fixed assets in SAP Business One 9.1, and to mention that it is fully integrated as part of the core product from version 9 upwards. Then we looked at setting up the fixed assets, so what options within SAP are necessary in order to define your fixed assets. So we've got activating the fixed assets, document numbering, account determination, depreciation types, depreciation areas, asset classes, attribute groups, and then either import or manually enter the fixed asset master data. Then we looked at the life cycle of the fixed asset. So the definition of the fixed asset, activating the capitalization document, depreciation runs, adjustments, and of course the retirement of the asset after useful life. I hope you've enjoyed this session, and if you have any follow-up questions at all from today's webinar, if you could email us at sales@iasgroup.eu, or if you would like to phone in to speak with anybody about getting fixed assets set up or training on fixed assets, you'll need to speak with your account manager. As of course this will require time either remotely or on site to get the system set up to meet your requirements. So I thank you for joining me today, and I'd like you, again, if you have any questions at all, please do contact any member of staff, either from sales or from your account manager, if you require any questions answered. And I hope you've enjoyed the session, and thank you for listening. Bye for now. Thanks.